Greetings students, I'm Dr. Sadri, your instructor for this IPE course. What we're going to do today is we are going to focus on Module 5. And Module 5 introduces a number of new thoughts and ideas, okay? So as you can see the title of it right there, we put right there for you here, Module 5, Alternative what? Perspective. So Module 5, Alternative Perspective. So in addition to the book chapter, I also have a section for you about rational choice thoughts, which is an idea we borrowed from businesses. Is that right? And then also I have an a section, small section for you called feminism. All right, and then beyond that one, then we have what two articles to read. So a little bit more reading, but you would see that actually the PowerPoint is briefer and shorter. But I wanted to make sure that in addition to the three main theories that we had, mercantilism, classical liberalism, and structuralism, you're exposed to some of the newer ideas. So you don't say, so when you go on to talk with some people about international economy and politics or something, and they say, oh, did you know about this? Did you know? And you say, no, I have never heard of that one. So I thought, this is the introductory level course, so we just talk about the surface part of it, but at least I want you to be familiar and have some general idea, okay? So having said that one, now let's go and focus on what our outline is talking about. Here, so we have a simple outline of, with 6 points. Is that right? I could have, again, make it to be 5 points. Remember, our PowerPoints are a what? Study guide. Very good. Okay, so we start with an introduction. We talk about some key ideas in constructivism, one of the most popular 21st century, well, actually it came out from 20th century, but it became one of the most popular one in the 21st century, especially among young people. All right, and then the dynamics of the norms, and then we talk about constructivism, views on the conflict, cooperation, and security. Is that right? Some of the major themes. So then economic ideas in constructivism, IPE, and what? And last one on these conclusion. So as you can see, it has a lot of heavy ideas about that one. But with this slide, what I'm trying to do is also introduce some of those other, ideas in the reading, okay? In addition to constructivism that, texts and others they talk about, we should not ignore the ideas of what? Feminism, which is very important, and rational choice. So here in this slide, I kind of summarize some of the main points for you. I'm not going to go into details because they're much easier to read. Constructivism is a little bit more challenging, so I'm going to focus my time on that one. But as you can see, it says introduction, alternative perspectives, which includes what? Rational choice. Is that right? And feminism and constructivism. Let me say a few words about rational choice, which I have put right here, some ideas for you too. Rational choice that is borrowed from the businesses basically argues this, that we assume every individual is rational, and this rational individual is a person that maximizes his or her benefits and minimizes his or her cost. Now, when we say benefit, we don't mean just financial, okay? We don't mean just monetary. It could be monetary, but it could be what? Other factors too. For example, yes, of course, you can go to a job, you have more money. Is that right? But sometimes you go to a job that necessarily is not more money, it's either the same amount of money or a little bit less, but it's more prestigious. Is that right? So prestige is another benefit you can get. Is that right? Or provide you with a lot of other accesses, access to other things that you might want, or provide you with the room to grow, as opposed to yes, you're making a lot of money, but there is this glass ceiling that you can't pass. You see what I mean? So those things should be considered part of the benefits. And then in terms of the cost, again, cost is not just financial. Oh, it cost me a lot more money on gas to drive to this work, which is 3 hours away. Okay, that's a part of it. But the cost can also be your time. Cost can also be the pressure that it puts on you because you're not so available in terms of your family life and relationship with your friends, and you don't have time. If you're working like 70, 80 hours a week as opposed to 40 hours, you don't have time to get together with your networks that they would help you and then, energize you, get together with your friend for a happy hour or a dinner or something, or your family events or something, and you're not going to be missing any more, holidays, I don't know, Thanksgiving and 4th of July and everything, because you're constantly working like a dog. You see what I mean? So these are the things that you should also consider as a cost. is not just money. It's not just monetary. Okay? So anyway, the assumption right here is that rational person maximizes benefits, minimizes what? Cost. Remember that one. All right. So now there are also questions about that one. Are all the individuals rational? I don't know. You think about it. Is that right? I'm leaving it as an open, issue right there. Another very important theory that I like to emphasize is feminism. Okay, some people, as soon as they say feminism, they start shaking. Oh, what are you talking about? Are you talking about hegemony of women? No. Look, first of all, there are different types of feminism, and feminism focuses on what? Feminism focuses on the role of women, and in every society, biologically, not even including the societies that have gone to wars. Is that right? Biologically, society somehow produces more women than men. Okay, this is just biological. Why? I have no idea. I do not know. I'm just reporting to you what my biology, colleagues are talking about. 52% of the population ends up being what? Female. Okay, if this is the case, and we consider ourselves a democracy, and we have to include everybody's point of view, technically, women are always majority. Is that right? Now, this is again in a society that doesn't go to war. Now, you go to a war like what has happened in Europe. Look at, for example, Russia. Look at many European countries. Look at U.S. because we are here and there. Is that right? When you go to war, usually and traditionally, a lot of the soldiers on the field have been male. Is that right? And they die, or during the disasters and everything, something that happens, a lot of men they die. Is that right? So the portion of the women they actually increases even further. In Russia, even nowadays, they still haven't, recovered from some of the things that happened to them in World War II and other wars or something. Is that right? And now that they are in a war with Ukraine, they invaded Ukraine, and there, a lot of Russians are dying. Who is among the Russians dying? Most of the men, young men are dying. Is that right? These are the people who are supposed to come back, have a job, make a family, have kids, and everything else. So Russia has what? Actually a population problem right now, you see? So when we are talking about women, that's why feminism is important, because it's a perspective of a different gender. Is that right? And then research shows us that men and women is not to say one is better than the others. Now, they have, and this is, again, not 100%, but men and women, they show different priorities in terms of, their views of how politics, economy, and everything else is supposed to go. Like men, they have a tendency to think mostly about wars and things like that. Is that right? Wars, military, this and that. Women, they have a tendency to think more about development, education, negotiation, those type of factors. So while men are more focused on wars and security and those things, women have the. So could we say wars are much more important than development? No, they go hand in hand. No society can just focus on wars and everything. Look at historically what happened to what? Sparta. Is that right? When you study Sparta as one of the city-states in Greece, it was the most dynamic military machine on, in that time period. Is that right? What is left from them? Nothing. They would beat up everybody else. Is that right? I mean, I'm sure you've seen the movie 300. Is that right? Well, of course, these are exaggerated version of them, but still, and they're always whatever. But, still, it shows it's a society that was based on the essence of what? Military strength. Okay? Now, when we talk about the, Greek contribution to Western civilization, we hardly talk about Sparta. Is that right? We talk about basically contribution of Greece from Athens, okay? And what was in Athens? Philosophers, artists, scientists. You see what I mean? That's what really wonderfully counts, okay? But in this case, now that we are in 21st century and men and women, they have equal opportunities and rights and everything else in many societies. Yes, there are societies that still, they keep their women under a lot of pressure. Is that right? That shows also something about the society, okay? So here we go. Women's perspective is important. Now, you need to consider that feminism is not just one point of view. Feminism can focus on legal aspects, so this, legal feminism. They can focus on economic aspect, can focus on, economic feminism, political feminism, you name it. You can have it. Is that right? Of course, the legal one of them is focusing on equal rights, okay? And, the economic one is talking about, well, women, they should also enter not just the traditional jobs that they've always done, either take care of home or become a nurse or become a teacher. Is that right? Women can be an astronaut. Look at right now, we have in, Artemis 2, we have what? One of the 4, astronaut is woman, and she's very capable. And she's usually the one who's doing most of the talking and this and that. And, so it's important in a society, the dynamic society, to give equal, not just to be politically correct, but their contribution, because it lead into what? That contribution and men contribution combined would lead into something which is better for all of us, not just some of us. Is that right? Okay. So that's why I've included the notion of feminism right here for you, even though your text didn't have really something about it, and I included what? And a reading about that. Now, having said that one, then we can talk about constructivism. And constructivism focuses on belief system. And let's move on and talk more about what? That one. So, in terms of the background and everything, the main argument is the constructivism is focusing on beliefs, identities and values, and these are critical factors in explaining international relation events from constructivist perspective. So what are some of the assumptions of it? As you can see, I put 4 of the assumptions, identified it for you, and put it right here. So here we go. Ideas, norms, and identities of groups and states are what? Socially constructed. Very important notion. Next one. Ideas are social forces that are as important as military or economy. That's something that sometimes rubs other people in a wrong way, but it's a constructivist perspective, okay? Now, next one. Conflict and cooperation are products of values and what? Beliefs. Look at right now the war with Iran, is that right? How we Americans look at it from one side, our junior partner, the Israelis are looking at it. Then look at how our NATO allies in Europe are looking at it. Look at how our economic rivals like China and Japan are looking at it. You see what I mean? So we need to consider that only one point of view, only a tunnel vision is not going to solve all the problems. Is that right? Now, I didn't even mention how the Iranians are looking at it. And of course, this is not the Iran that we are used to. This is Islamic Republic of Iran, which is a result of 1979 revolution. But if you like it or not, you still need to consider them. I'm not suggesting they are right. I'm not suggesting they are wrong. You need to consider the factor. And also their regional, neighbors. You see what I mean? The Saudi perspective, the Turkish perspective, the Pakistanis that are trying to act like a what? Middleman right there bringing some peace. So these are very, very important issues to consider. Last but not least, some IR changes are driven by changes in the beliefs and the actor's identity. Okay, so beyond that one, now we go to the next one, the key ideas in constructivism, conceptual tools, very, very important. No, I did not come up with this one on my own. I basically try to stay as close as possible to your reading so you can digest the material. Because you remember, the way your brain is going to focus on is you need to have the big picture, and then from that big picture you go to more and more and more detail. So this is the big picture part. 1. Problematization. Is that right? Process by which states and groups construct problems that require response. We make problems to be what? Problems. Interesting. A framing of it, very important. The process of defining what the essence of a global issue is, its causes, consequences, best approaches to address it. Okay. Next, discourse analysis helps us to understand where important concepts come from and how they come from. That is not some from. This should be come from. Okay, just cut something right there. It's a problem of asking somebody else to read your handwriting and put the PowerPoint together. Okay, come from and how they shape that state policies, and then analyzing metaphors and categories that are applied to what things in the social world. So these are. If you wanted to know everything about that one, but in a short version, there is nothing better than this one. Is that right? Now, it doesn't mean that this is all you should know. This should help you to digest the material over there. Okay, now let's go to the next one. The 3 stages of it, the dynamic stages is that norm emergence, norm cascades, and what? Internalizing the norm. Then the whole idea of the actors that spread the norms, TANs or transnational advocacy networks, NGOs, media, unions, blah, blah, blah. Epistemological communities, professionals with what? Recognized expertise, yeah, this is supposed to be IOs. It's really like EOS. Okay, IOs. Again, I think Microsoft sometimes has its own way of doing this one. Capital I, capital O's, and with what little s right there. Another like the UN, Red Cross, and the World Bank. And the next notion being the norms of the life cycle, applying models and concepts to explain the what. Emergence, diffusion, life cycles of a wide range of international norms. For example, UN and spread of the human development versus what? Economic growth. And last but not least is what? Consideration of these norms and the norms death. Here is the criticism, the focus of the study. Norms that are successfully accepted, not those that are what? They failed. Okay, so here we go. The next notion in terms of constructivism would be constructivism views on conflict, cooperation, security. I thought this part, very frankly, was very much easier. Is that right? Since it was easier, I just highlighted for you. Two main things that you need to consider. Of course, in terms of that, you should consider anarchy is what states make it, based on their view. An example of the what? Nuclear taboo and the 5 UN Security Council members, okay, explained very well there. National identity, which is leading into foreign policy. What is your national identity? We think we are superior. That was what got Germany into major problem in World War II, is that right? Because they started thinking about, first we are united, no, we are brothers, now we need to be united, and well, we are superior to everybody else. You see what I mean? That national identity of superiority led into a very aggressive foreign policy. Okay, so now there are different versions of it nowadays, but I thought that would be something that you would remember. Okay, identity is rooted in the language, ethnicity, religion, that also understands a political, economic, and what social essence of one state, like Western liberal, for example, democracies. Is that right? And then the whole notion of secularization, when elite through the discourse construct an issue as a security threat. Like what? Like the whole notion of immigration. Is it good? Is it bad? Is that right? Many countries in the world are a result of immigration. US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. You see what I mean? But, sometimes it's considered positive, sometimes considered not so positive. Is that right? So here we go. And we can conclude our topic by focusing on the last slide, which is basically talking about economic ideas. In constructivist, IPE, economic ideas lead to state policy, the power of the economic ideas. In 1990s, that was talking about sustainable development had become a what? A major concept. We're going to come back to this one later on. World Bank, plans, the role of the economic ideas in the global what? Financial crisis. In other words, economics is leading into what? Politics. Oh my gosh. Doesn't it sound like Marxist perspective? Is that so? It seems like constructivism is borrowing ideas from everybody. Is that right? And then Keynes' ideas spreading, in the post-World War II period. Is that right? Bretton Woods. Here we go. And then conclusion, ideas are what? Powerful and should be taken seriously. If there is something you should remember, at least should be what? Should be that idea. Okay, we covered all those topics about the new and alternative perspective for you. I hope that this big picture and shorter lecture is acceptable. And if there are still questions you have, you know what to do. You just email me. Thank you.